Why is it that so many men find themselves constantly on edge in their relationships, always chasing, always responding, always trying to fix her mood? Have you ever noticed how much of your mental energy is spent analyzing her texts, anticipating her needs, or worrying about her reaction? Think about it. How many times have you dropped everything to respond to her message, adjusted your plans because of her subtle disappointment, or found yourself walking on eggshells to avoid triggering her frustration? This constant state of reaction isn't just exhausting, it's fundamentally changing who you are. And here's the painful truth that no one tells you. The more you react to her, the less she feels drawn to you. In those quiet moments of honesty with yourself, you've probably wondered, why do I feel so powerless in my own relationship? I get it. I've been there too. That feeling of constantly orbiting around someone else's emotional weather system, never quite knowing if you're doing enough, always feeling slightly off balance. Today, I want to talk about why we fall into this pattern of constant reaction, and more importantly, how to break free from it in a way that actually strengthens your relationship rather than damages it. Let's get something clear from the start. This isn't about manipulation or playing games. This is about reclaiming your center and creating the kind of relationship dynamic where both people thrive. So what exactly happens when you stop reacting to her? First, let's understand what reacting really means. Reacting is that immediate, often emotional response to whatever she says or does. It's that urgent text back when she seems upset. It's that defensive explanation when she questions you. It's that anxious feeling when she's quiet for too long. Reacting comes from a place of fear of disapproval, fear of conflict, fear of losing her. And women can sense this fear even when you think you're hiding it well. Think about it. When you're constantly available, constantly accommodating, constantly trying to manage her emotion, you're sending a subtle but powerful message. My time, my boundaries, and my emotional state are less important than yours. And no matter how much she might seem to appreciate your responsiveness in the moment, over time, something shifts. The truth is, constant reactivity creates an imbalance that ultimately leaves both of you feeling unfulfilled. For you, it creates resentment. For her, it creates something unexpected, a gradual loss of attraction and respect. Let me share something that might be hard to hear. Women are not attracted to men whose emotional state they can easily control. This isn't about gender stereotypes or outdated ideas about masculinity. This is about human psychology. We value what we can't easily influence or predict. We're intrigued by emotional strength and stability. So what happens when you stop immediately reacting to everything she says and does? First, you create space, mental and emotional space where actual connection can grow. When you're not frantically responding to every emotional cue, you can be present in a deeper way. Second, you begin to show up as a complete person, someone with their own center of gravity, their own thoughts and feelings that exist independently of her approval. And third, you create the conditions for genuine desire to develop. Because desire doesn't grow in conditions of obligation or reaction. It grows in the space between two whole people who choose each other freely. But how exactly do you stop this pattern of constant reaction? Let me give you some practical steps. Step 1. Pause before responding. This sounds simple, but it's revolutionary. When she texts, don't respond immediately unless it's genuinely urgent. When she expresses disappointment, don't rush to fix her feelings. When she asks a question that feels loaded, take a moment to consider your honest response rather than saying what you think she wants to hear. That pause, even if it's just for a few extra seconds, is where you reclaim your power of choice. Step 2. Reconnect with your own values and priorities. Ask yourself, what matters to me? What kind of partner do I want to be? What boundaries feel healthy to maintain? When you're clear on these questions, your responses come from a place of authenticity rather than reaction. Step 3. Practice emotional self-sufficiency. This means learning to sit with your own uncomfortable feelings rather than immediately seeking her reassurance. It means developing the ability to validate yourself rather than needing her constant approval. When you can manage your own emotional state, her moods no longer throw you off balance. Step 4. Engage with genuine curiosity rather than anxious anticipation. Instead of trying to predict what she wants or needs, allow yourself to be curious about who she really is. Ask questions because you're genuinely interested, not because you're gathering intelligence to avoid potential conflict. Step 5. Build a life that's fulfilling even when she's not present. Maintain your friendships, pursue your interests, create goals that have nothing to do with your relationship status. The most attractive quality in a partner isn't constant availability, it's having a life that's rich and meaningful on its own terms. Now, I want to address the fear that might be coming up for you. If I stop reacting to her, won't she think I don't care? Won't she leave me for someone more attentive? This is where we need to distinguish between reacting and responding. Reacting comes from fear and happens automatically. Responding comes from choice and happens intentionally. When you stop reacting, you're not becoming cold or distant. You're actually creating the space to respond more authentically. You're moving from anxious attachment to secure connection. And here's what's fascinating. When you make this shift, something unexpected happens in your relationship. She begins to move toward you differently, not because you're using some manipulation tactic, but because genuine confidence and emotional stability are deeply attractive qualities. When you're no longer treating her like she's made of glass, when you're no longer walking on eggshells around her mood, when you're no longer desperately seeking her approval, you become a man she can actually lean into rather than one she has to manage. Think about the men you respect most in your life. Are they constantly reactive to the people around them? Or do they move through the world with a sense of purpose and calm presence? That quality you admire in them is what develops when you break the habit of constant reaction. Now let's talk about what this might actually look like in your daily life. Imagine she sends you a text that feels a bit cold or dismissive. Your old pattern would be to immediately respond, perhaps with an anxious question about whether she's upset or with an over-explanation of whatever you think might have bothered her. Instead, you pause. You notice the slight anxiety rising in your chest. You remind yourself that her emotional state isn't your responsibility to fix. You go about your day, and when you do respond, it's from a place of genuine engagement rather than anxious reactivity. Or imagine you're making plans together, and she expresses disappointment about your suggestion. Your old pattern would be to immediately abandon your idea and scramble to find something that would make her happy. Instead, you listen to her perspective with genuine interest. You share your thoughts without defensiveness. You remain open to compromise without abandoning what matters to you. You stay present with the tension rather than rushing to resolve it. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice, one that will feel uncomfortable at first because you're rewiring patterns that may have been with you for years. But with each small choice to respond rather than react, you're building a new foundation for your relationship. One based on mutual respect rather than emotional dependency. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop trying so hard to manage her feelings about you, she often begins to feel more strongly drawn to you. Not because you're playing games, but because you're finally showing up as your full self. A man who isn't defined by her reaction. A man who brings his own sense of purpose and direction to the relationship. This is the kind of man who makes a woman feel she can finally relax. Because she's not responsible for your emotional well-being, because she knows you'll speak your truth even when it's difficult, because she can trust that your presence in her life is a choice you make freely, not an obligation you fulfill anxiously. So if you're tired of feeling like you're constantly walking on eggshells, if you're exhausted from the emotional roller coaster of trying to manage her moods, if you're ready to experience a relationship built on mutual desire rather than mutual dependency, then start with this one simple practice. The next time you feel that urgent need to react to her, pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, am I responding from freedom or reacting from fear? That moment of awareness is where everything begins to change. Remember, the goal isn't to care less. It's to care from a place of choice rather than compulsion. It's to love from your strength rather than your insecurity. When you stop reacting to her and start responding with intention, you're not just changing the dynamic of your relationship. You're reclaiming the man you were always meant to be. And that man, centered, present, and purposeful, is someone she can truly desire rather than merely need. The journey from reaction to response isn't always easy, but I promise you this, on the other side of that journey is the relationship you've always wanted, one where both of you can show up fully, love freely, and choose each other every day from a place of strength rather than fear. Take that first step, stop reacting, start responding, and watch what happens next.